Think your grandma's secret meatloaf recipe is old? That's cute. Family recipes are treasures passed down through generations, each one carrying stories, memories, and flavors that connect us to our roots. But even the oldest family recipe in your kitchen drawer is a newcomer compared to what archaeologists have uncovered. The oldest known written recipe isn't for bread or cake, it's for beer. Imagine, thousands of years ago, someone took the time to carve brewing instructions into a clay tablet, ensuring the knowledge would last for millennia. This wasn't just about making a drink, it was about preserving a way of life. Long before we wrote down how to bake, ancient Mesopotamians were documenting how to brew. Brewing was a craft, a science, and an art form, and it was so important that it became one of the first things ever recorded in human history. Beer wasn't just a drink, it was a cornerstone of their society, economy, and religion. It was used as currency, offered to the gods, and shared at celebrations. Beer brought people together, marking both daily routines and special occasions. This flips our idea of culinary history. Before bread, there was beer. The ingredients for both are similar, but beer came first, showing that our ancestors were driven by curiosity and creativity, not just necessity. It shows that from the start, we cooked for flavor and transformation, not just survival. The act of brewing was about more than sustenance. It was about experimenting, sharing, and enjoying the results together. Someone thousands of years ago perfected this process and thought it important enough to carve into clay. They wanted future generations to know exactly how to recreate this magical transformation of grain and water. Beer recipes predate most others, proving its central role in daily life. These ancient instructions are a testament to how vital beer was to the fabric of society, shaping culture and community. The desire to create something delicious and mind-altering is as old as civilization itself. From the very beginning, humans have sought not just to survive but to celebrate, to innovate, and to savor the flavors of life together. Our hero today isn't a chef, a king, or even a legendary brewer. It's a humble clay tablet from the heart of ancient Iraq, a relic that has outlasted empires and witnessed the birth of civilization itself. Imagine for a moment a small slab of clay, pressed and inscribed by hands that lived nearly 4,000 years ago, surviving the rise and fall of cities, the shifting sands of time, and the curiosity of generations. This particular tablet, dating back to around 1800 BCE, is more than just an artifact. It's a window into the daily life and spiritual world of the Sumerians. It contains a hymn dedicated to Ninkasi, the revered Sumerian goddess of beer, and woven into this poetic praise is something extraordinary, a recipe for brewing beer, hidden in the verses of a song. The Sumerians used cuneiform writing, those iconic wedge-shaped marks pressed into soft clay, to record everything from trade deals to epic tales. Here, they used it to immortalize their sacred brewing guide, ensuring that the knowledge would endure long after the original brewers had passed on. The very act of preserving this recipe on a clay tablet speaks volumes about how seriously the Sumerians took their beer. Beer wasn't just a drink, it was a vital part of their culture, economy, and even their religious rituals. This tablet is both a cultural treasure and a practical manual, seamlessly connecting the divine with the everyday. It's a testament to how food and drink can bridge the gap between the sacred and the mundane. Against all odds, the tablet survived nearly 4 millennia, through wars, floods, and the slow decay of time, offering us a direct line to a Babylonian brewmaster's world. It's as if the ancient Sumerians are whispering their secrets across the ages. The recipe's poetic, hymn-like format suggests it was meant to be sung aloud, perhaps during the brewing process itself. This made it easy to memorize and pass down, turning the act of brewing into a communal, almost theatrical ritual. This blend of art and science, of song and instruction, is a far cry from today's sterile, printed recipe cards. The Sumerians infused their instructions with creativity and reverence, making each batch of beer a celebration of both craftsmanship and faith. Brewing was more than a technical process. It was a sacred act, a creative and spiritual ritual that brought people together. The instructions weren't just steps to follow. They were a living tradition, sung and shared in the glow of ancient kitchens. Thanks to the tablet's remarkable survival, we can now peer into those kitchens, imagine the aroma of fermenting grains, and picture the hands that stirred the pots. We glimpse the ancient brewing process, step by step, as if we were there ourselves. In a way, this is the world's oldest cooking show, hosted by a Sumerian, performed for the gods, and preserved for us to rediscover. The story, the song, and the recipe all come together in a single, enduring artifact. And so, the story of beer begins not with a bottle, but with a song, etched in clay, sung for the goddess, and shared across the ages. The ancient brew relied on water and barley, just like today. Babylonians malted their barley, unlocking sugars for fermentation. Their secret weapon? Fapir, a twice-baked barley bread, dry and shelf-stable. Fapir wasn't for eating. It was crumbled into the mash, allowing year-round brewing. The bread was mixed with spices or honey, adding flavor and complexity. Baking the bread created toasty, sweet notes that carried into the beer. Water from the Tigris and Euphrates added its own unique taste. The combination of fresh malt and Bapir gave brewers control over flavor and texture. This was more than tossing ingredients in a pot, it was culinary engineering. Simple elements, orchestrated for something greater. Babylonian beer wasn't just barley, water, and Bapir. They used other grains like emmer wheat and spelt for texture and flavor. Without hops, brewers turned to herbs, spices, and fruits to balance sweetness. Date syrup, honey, and figs added sugar and fruity notes. Spices like cinnamon or cardamom brought aromatic complexity. Additives were chosen for both flavor and medicinal properties. Some beers had over 20 ingredients, rivaling modern craft brews. Brewers layered flavors, not just masking but building complexity. This was a vibrant, experimental culture always pushing boundaries. Ancient brewers were true culinary innovators. The Ninkazi hymn reveals a brewing process both familiar and unique. Bapir bread, malted barley and water formed a thick mash. Enzymes broke down starches into sugars, a process still used today. The sweet liquid, or wort, was drained from the mash and cooled on reed mats. Instead of pitching yeast, they relied on wild airborne yeasts for fermentation. The wort was poured into clay vessels where yeast worked its magic. Fermentation was monitored by sight, sound and smell. The finished beer was thick and unfiltered, full of grain and yeast. Special straws with filters let drinkers sip beneath the sediment. Communal drinking from a shared pot was the norm. The process was a masterclass in ancient ingenuity. Babylonian beer was anything but uniform. It was the world's first craft beer scene. Different brewers and temples had unique recipes and styles. There were golden beers, dark beers, sweet beers, dozens of varieties. Elite brews used rare ingredients. Simpler beers fed the masses and paid workers. Beer was central to the economy and daily life. Competition drove innovation. Brewers experimented for prestige and profit. Taverns, often run by women, were social and business hubs. Beer was woven into festivals, rituals, and community gatherings. The desire for variety and quality in beer is a timeless tradition. Ancient Babylon was a city of beer lovers and innovators. From clay pots in Babylon to cans at your BBQ, the brewing basics haven't changed. Malting, mashing, fermenting. Babylonian methods are still the foundation. Their use of different grains and flavorings is echoed in today's craft beers. Adding fruits and spices? That's straight from the Sumerian playbook. Wild yeast gave their beer funky, sour notes, just like modern wild ales. Today's brewers even seek out wild fermentation to recapture those ancient flavors. Beer remains a social glue from ancient taverns to modern tap rooms. The ritual of sharing a drink is a 4,000-year-old tradition. We may have new tools, but the spirit of beer is unchanged. What did this 3,700-year-old beer taste like? Thanks to historians and brewers, we know. Modern recreations use Bapir, date syrup, and no hops, just like the original. The result, a thick, cloudy, pulpy drink, more like a thin porridge than today's beer. Served warm with low carbonation, it was sipped through straws to avoid sediment. The flavor? Bready, nutty, sweet from dates or honey, and likely a bit sour from wild yeast. It was complex, nourishing, and totally different from modern lagers. Tasting it is sensory archaeology, a direct link to ancient life. It reminds us these were real people, celebrating and relaxing with their own craft brew. Drinking their beer is like shaking hands across the centuries. This ancient beer recipe is more than a curiosity, it's a cornerstone of civilization. When we look at these 3,700-year-old clay tablets, we're not just glimpsing a forgotten drink, but a window into the daily lives, ingenuity, and values of the people who built the first cities. Beer wasn't just a beverage, it was a vital part of social gatherings, religious rituals, and even wages for workers. Its importance can't be overstated. It proves our drive to innovate and improve daily life through food and drink. From the earliest days, humans have experimented with ingredients, methods, and flavors, always searching for something better, tastier, or more nourishing. The act of brewing beer was an early example of science in action: trial, error, and discovery, all in pursuit of something that brought people together. Babylonians weren't just making gruel, they crafted a complex, essential beverage. Their beer was carefully brewed from barley and emmer wheat, using techniques passed down through generations. It was nutritious, safer to drink than water, and came in many varieties, some sweet, some strong, some reserved for the gods. Recording the recipe elevated brewing to an art and science. By inscribing their methods on clay, the Babylonians ensured that knowledge could be shared, improved, and preserved. This was one of humanity's first steps toward written tradition, transforming oral know-how into lasting wisdom. Sharing techniques and recipes is an ancient impulse, not a modern fad. The desire to teach, to learn, and to pass on what works best is woven into our DNA. Every time we swap a recipe or teach someone to cook, we're echoing a tradition that began thousands of years ago. Their methods and ingredients echo in today's kitchens and breweries. Modern brewers and chefs still rely on grains, fermentation, and creativity, just as the Babylonians did. The tools have changed, but the spirit of experimentation and community remains. We're always refining the wisdom of those who came before. Each generation adds its own twist, building on ancient foundations to create something new, yet deeply connected to the past. The Babylonian brewer is the ancestor of every modern craftsperson. Whether you're making beer, bread, or art, you're part of a lineage that values skill, patience, and creativity. The quest for a good drink is a constant in human history. Across cultures and centuries, people have gathered to share food and drink, to celebrate, to mourn, and to connect. So next time you raise a glass, remember, you're part of a tradition thousands of years old. Every sip is a tribute to the inventiveness, resilience, and community spirit of our ancestors. Cheers to the past, present, and future of brewing.